Good afternoon, my dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, followers, critics, and all those who are just incidentally interested in listening to what I might have to say this afternoon about business. To be specific, small business. I've been privileged to interact with small businesses for a total of how many years now? Total of 24 years. Yeah, correct. For over 24 years now, I have dealt, interacted with, and transacted with small businesses. I've had an experience of my own with my own small businesses, and by small business I really mean micro businesses. And coupled together with my business training, I am quite comfortable, handling most of the major issues that are involved in dealing with small businesses, whether as a businessman myself or as a consultant offering help and assistance to those who are running small businesses or who want to start small businesses, or who, for that matter, would like to stop running businesses because they think maybe it's not the thing of their calling. With all that, I am very well conversant. It's my comfort zone. I'm alright with it. I understand quite a high range of issues along that spectrum. I would like to talk now. I just want to discuss at random, freestyle, in my own time, about some of the salient issues that you come across in small businesses, and some of the main challenges which, as I interact with people by phone, in person, and or maybe just through social media, they keep repeating themselves, they keep coming up, they keep, and then I keep noticing certain patterns of behavior which seem to indicate where people's problems might actually lie as far as managing small businesses is concerned. I'd like to start off with the issue of capital. We all know that you cannot start a business, you cannot run a business unless you have capital to start with. What is capital? Capital is the money, to put it in very basic terms, capital is that money which you need to get yourself started in business. Money, we call it capital. That money could just be yours. Maybe you saved it, over a period of time, or your parents gave it to you, but it's capital. But sometimes you cannot have your own money, and maybe your parents may not be in a position to give you some money, or maybe you've not got relatives, or you've not got anybody who can give you free money to get started. The other option is to borrow. You can borrow money from any source, any legitimate source, friends, relatives, acquaintances. You can borrow some money and, on some terms. Borrow it to pay it back with interest, or borrow it to pay it back with no interest. But the point is that it's not yours, so you borrowed it from somebody, and After getting it back, you're gonna give it back to them. So again, that is capital. Now, by far the most prevalent challenge today in Zambia, as elsewhere really, but I'm more interested in the Zambian scenario because as my point of focus, is the lack of capital, you know, because to get involved, to enter the market, you need the money. You need money to go and buy your goods. You need the money maybe to spend on transport, buy your goods, to pay whatever costs are associated with whatever business line you are involved in. So, the lack of that capital is what tends to be the permanent story for some people. They will talk about lack of capital from the time you meet them until you meet them again 20, 25 years later. They all say how very passionate they are about doing this business, how that the only issue for them is that of capital. If it was not for lack of capital, they would be in business. Now, I would like to say to you, my friend, that business is not for you. If you've been talking capital, you know, the same old story. If it was not for capital, you would have been in bigger, higher, better places, you know, as we talk. To you, I just say you are not serious, you are probably an entertainer, because if you were really a serious business person, capital should not be the song that you sing every day of your life. We can talk about capital today, but in a matter of a month, 2 months, that issue should be resolved. So, how do we get around the issue of capital? So many ways. Let me just talk generally about some of the ways you can get capital. First of all, there are too many illusions and assumptions, and I think how can I put this? What I really want to say is that too many people are naive about business. It's an illusion to think that for you to go into business, you need large sums of money. It's an illusion. You know? You are going into business for the first time. You don't know what it is like in there. You practically don't know anything that goes on in there. And you want to stake big money in it. Right? So what happens if you run into a loss, which is more likely than not? Big money, you have never had that money, it took you years and years to accumulate that money, or if you borrowed it, it was going to be paid back over a long period of time, or at least it was not going to be an easy thing to pay it back. So you put it in that trial business and it goes down the drain. So what you gonna do now that you've lost it? Jump down? Leave the country? What do you say to the people that give you the money for capital? So let's be realistic. It is unwise to rush into business with a huge bag of cash. Start yourself out small. That's what prudent people do. Test the market. So go in there with the minimum amount possible. Try the business out. Business may be okay, the problem might be you. You might not be the right person for that kind of business. So either you or the business might not work out. So try things out at a small scale. In agriculture, what they do, way back then when I was studying agricultural science, before you plant certain type of crops, you needed to prepare them on a nursery bed, because the nursery bed gave you the opportunity to observe potential problems while the crop is still in its infancy. As it grows in the nursery, you would observe certain things, and then, you know, from there you can pretty much have an idea what's going to happen when you transplant it, you know. So it's the same in business. Try yourself out on a small scale. If you go out to sea and you want to swim, you know, you believe that you were born a swimmer, or you have a calling of a swimmer, or, you know, whatever, and you want to go out to sea, and because you have seen expert divers, you know, spend hours under the sea. I don't know if they spend hours, but you've seen them under the sea, you know, exploring the sea, showing brilliant pictures of creatures under the sea, and you think you're just gonna rush out there, you know, and dress and dive into the deep end of it, and boom, you're just like those other, you know, deep sea divers and explorers. No, it's not gonna be like that. It might not end well for you. So the best thing for you to do, go out to the sea, observe with your eyes, you know, look at the sea, look at the shallow, you know, parts of it, bits of it. Then try yourself out, you know, see what other people are doing first, and then start by walking in, you know, walk from the shallow end and keep going to just test, you know, the descent, you know, how the land descends into the sea, how far you can go before you can you know, get challenged by the depth or the current of the water. That would be the best thing to do. So if you're swimming, you're not yet conversant, just swim along the coast, you know, very close to the bank, so that should anything go wrong, people can easily salvage you, or at least you can run out. And then as you practice every day, you will get better, and eventually you will have the courage and the ability to swim a little bit further. And with the skill and training, eventually you might just become one of those divers. I'm just illustrating a principle that applies in many areas of life, and that is very much true in business as well. When I first started out in business, I was not completely ignorant about business. As a matter of fact, I knew a lot of things. I had just graduated, you know, so business was my turf. But what I didn't know was the difference between the theories that I had packed up for 3 years, did exams at the end of every year, and the realities of practical life of business out there in the community, in the field, with people that don't even know that colleges and universities exist, but they can teach you how to make money from nothing out there on the streets, in the dust. That's how I learned my business. When I finished college, I finished university, I spent a lot of time going to and fro with my certificate in a brown envelope, and very clean clothes, well polished shoes, and just looking like a perfect executive, you know, going from company to company looking for a job in sales or in marketing or in any business capacity. And I was just surprised that wherever I went, I didn't command so much attention. And I was just wondering, what is this? I'm supposed to be a graduate. So what's going on here? But wherever I went, I sat for an interview. When I wrote letters, applications, they were very attractive and everybody called me. But it's when I went there, I never heard from them. They say, oh, we'll get back to you. And I never heard from them ever again. Or some of them brought back and said, sorry, on this occasion you are unsuccessful, but should there be blah, blah, blah. The usual excuse, that they give. When they don't want to upset you, the usual polite rejection. And I sat down, thought about it, and I just couldn't figure out what's wrong. Is it the training that I've done which is wrong? Is it something about me? Is my appearance? Is there something about my appearance which is, not worthwhile or what? So I really had a lot of challenges, to be honest. I never got around to figuring out why it was like that. But later on in life, with a bit more experience, and today certainly when I look back, I think I understand and I can see it just as clear as broad daylight. I went out for those interviews dressed, in most cases, better than even the people who were assigned to interview me.